Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence. We go after all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything. And you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on. It's going to be fun.
All right, guys. Today's date, April the 9th, 2025, and this is How the Frack We Got Here. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan on the Frack We Got Here. We do take the events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. Before we get started, guys, let you know that we are a news podcast, which means we pride ourselves on doing the most reputable site sourcing with award-winning journalism. We do not do sensational news like Fox News, The Blades, Daily Beast, where extreme left, extreme right you get your views from. We simply don't do that. At the same time, guys, we do try to watch our language here, but words do fly. At the same time, there may be news with videos that might be too intense for younger viewers, so viewer discretion is advised. Aside from that, welcome. So to Tariff or not to Tariff, that seems to be the two-step that F-47 seems to be doing today. And I literally mean today.
Morning, an explosive new chapter in President Trump's escalating trade war as his sweeping new tariffs on nearly 90 countries, including almost all major U.S. trading partners, kick in.
I know what the hell I'm doing.
Despite rattled markets, recession fears, and prices predicted to rise for consumers, President Trump, in a speech to lawmakers, insisted he has things under control.
You know what I'm doing, too. That's why you vote for me.
After some White House officials initially said the tariffs were not a bargaining chip,
this is not a negotiation.
the president's message is now clear, boasting that nearly 70 trading partners are looking to make deals.
I'm telling you, these countries are calling us up, kissing my ass. They are dying to make a deal. Please, sir, make a deal.
While many Republicans still support the president's trade war, a growing number are now openly expressing anxiety about the tariffs.
Who pays these high tariffs? In the short, medium term, it will be the consumer.
After one Republican introduced a bill aiming to rein in the president's powers to levy tariffs, the president is telling them to back off.
You don't negotiate like I negotiate.
All of it amounting to widespread uncertainty, including for small business owners like Haley Pavoni, who runs a women's footwear company.
It kind of feels, honestly, like small businesses are being used as pawns or almost seen as collateral damage in this broader trade war.
The tariff turmoil even sparking a hostile public feud between two top Trump officials. Billionaire Elon Musk tearing into top trade advisor Peter Navarro, calling him a moron and dumber than a sack of bricks, after Navarro took a swipe at Musk on CNBC.
He's not a car manufacturer. He's a car assembler in many cases.
The White House brushing it off.
Boys will be boys, and we will let their public sparring continue.
Boys will be boys. The president in those new comments overnight, not just leaning into these tariffs, but promising more, specifically on pharmaceuticals, drugs that millions of Americans rely on, announcing that.
And we'll get into that momentarily. But yes, to Tariff or not to Tariff, F-47 can't seem to make up his mind whether or not he wants to move forward or move backwards. Except that, when someone questions him, he immediately goes into old man territory. I know what the hell I'm doing. No, you really don't. This is coming from the same guy who wanted to build a casino in Atlantic City. You want to know where that casino is now? It's a parking lot. It was demolished. Because I want to point out every chance I get that this so-called successful businessman bankrupted a casino. You literally bankrupted a foolproof plan of making money in the U.S., and you somehow, some way, found a way to bankrupt it and try to write it off. Now, of course, this is just the beginning of this because, Trump has, again, stepped in and stepped out. He's like a person that just doesn't want to stay in the closet. He just always wants to constantly come out, even though he's more of a look-at-me kind of people. But I digress. But yes, the fact that he wants to push tariffs, including on China, which, again, it amazed me so. But before we get to China, let's talk about that pharmaceuticals. The one thing that a lot of people that voted for F-47 should really be concerned about outside of Medicare and Social Security being attacked, the fact that he wants to put tariffs on pharmaceuticals. A few problems with that, but I'll let you listen to him first.
Because, we don't make our own pharmaceuticals, drugs, other things to get better. They're made in other countries, and you pay a number. I mean, the same package in our country compared to like London and other places is sometimes 10 times. 10 times more. Something that sells for $88 in London sells for $1,300 here, made in the same factory by the same company. And that's over. I told them it's over. They put all of their research and development on it, they put everything. But what they don't tell you is that these other countries are smart. They say you can't charge more than $88, otherwise you can't sell it. And the drug companies listen to them. But we're going to do something that we have to do. We're going to tariff our pharmaceuticals. And once we do that, they're going to come rushing back into our country because we're the big market. The advantage we have over everybody is that we're the big market. So we're going to be announcing very shortly a major tariff on pharmaceuticals. And when they hear that, they will leave China, they will leave other places because they have to sell most of their product is sold here. And they're going to be opening up their plants all over the place in our country. We're going to be announcing that. So let's break news. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to break news.
Okay, let's just stop there because it sounds like an old man mumbling. A few problems with that. One, the fact that he wants to put tariffs on pharmaceuticals, not realizing that the U.S. is a closed drug market. I mean, think about it. If the U.S. was truly open, right, to drug pharmaceuticals, why is the cost of prescription still effing high? Why, for example, just shooting the breeze here, did we literally just go to the last presidential term with Biden, who got insulin, or I should say insulin for diabetes, where that prescription was capped at $35. It took his presidential term to make that happen. By all the way, every Republican voted against it. Every Republican not only voted against it, but when F-47 took office, decided to repeal the prescription drug cost of $35 on insulin for diabetes users. And so the fact that he's now saying he wants to put tariffs on pharmaceuticals, I'm like, first off, the only people that are truly nervous is the GOP. They're the ones that are rallying for the drug companies here. The Big Five, I think, is now. And they always say the same thing. The drug companies, they make the prices. The insurance companies, they set the prices. It's mom and dad pointing fingers back at each other while you're in the middle. So again, it's closed off market. Because imagine if we could have a drug market with Canada, with Mexico, with China, with all these other countries that make just as much pharmaceuticals as we do here in the U.S. Imagine the price competition it would be. Oh, but wait, there's not one because we're a closed drug market. Because they don't want Medicare to negotiate drug prices. And the healthcare companies have purchased the Republicans to make sure that doesn't happen. So again, Trump is like an old man that's on stage, that's muttering to himself half the time, complete nonsense. And yet he's the one telling Biden he was too old to be president. Sir, you're not that far off from him. And you sound like an old man that just needs to just go away. And I do mean go away. But yes, you should be highly concerned that he wants to go to pharmaceuticals. Because if you thought the price of getting stuff was high now, imagine if Trump had his way. Imagine if F-47 had his way. None of us would be able to afford medication, much less anything else. But hey, that's only part of his tariffs because he has a problem with China. And again, it never ceases to amaze me that Republicans always want to treat China as this big boogeyman, where not understanding the U.S. is not an exporter. We are a consumer. 90% of what you usually use or get comes from China. 90%. And he wants to throw additional tariffs on China. Good luck with that.
Tariffs kicked in overnight, including a 104% tariff on Chinese goods. Now, China's raising its retaliatory tariff on U.S. goods to 84%, and we're seeing the Dow start things off down about 300 points. Let's bring in business reporter Alexis Christoforous and foreign correspondent Britt Clinton in Hong Kong for more. Alexis, starting the day in the red.
Starting the day in the red could be a lot worse. I know down 300 points doesn't look great, but remember, there have been days over the past week where we've been down more than 1,000 points right out of the gate. These tariffs are now rolling forward. The shock and awe has sort of happened last week. We were expecting this. Of course, Wall Street was holding out hope that there might be an 11th hour deal with some country, possibly South Korea or Japan. That didn't happen. Just to give you an idea of how quickly we've come down in this market, the Dow has lost 4,500 points in just the past 4 trading sessions. The NASDAQ down 13%, the S&P 500 down about 12%. And now we're hearing from some CEOs. Just this morning, Delta Airlines CEO coming out and saying they're not going to expand their flying schedule in the second half of the year. He's already seeing a slowdown in bookings. And he said, you know what, we could have a self-induced recession, meaning that even though things look good right now, if consumers and businesses start to contract and not spend all at the same time, we can tip our own economy into recession.
Britt, China's raising its retaliatory tariff on U.S. goods to 84%. They say that'll be effective tomorrow. How are Asian markets reacting to that?
Hi, Diane. Well, this new information came out after markets closed here in Asia, but they were again down today, and we do expect them to respond to that volatility again when markets open tomorrow. China hitting back, as you say, with an 84% tariff on U.S. imports. That will take effect in the coming hours as it hits Thursday morning here. That's after President Trump, of course, more than doubled tariffs on China, with Beijing very much refusing to meet the president's deadline to walk back its own retaliatory levy on the U.S. Now, the Chinese tariff, it is an increase from the 34% it already imposed on American imports. So China's Commerce Ministry has also announced that it will add 6 more U.S. companies to its unreliable entities list, which basically sanctions them. These companies provide various services, including AI, aerospace, defense. And this comes after China's foreign ministry has repeatedly insisted that the country will fight until the end and accused the White House of bullying. Now, we have heard from Beijing, and it did say there would be resolute countermeasures if Trump made good on his promise to increase those tariffs to 104%. And we're starting to see that. And there is a sense that there might be more to come in this escalating and very worrying standoff between the world's 2 biggest economies, Diane.
And Alexis, we're now seeing the Dow down about 160. What are you watching for in the markets today?
Are we going to increase and build upon this sell-off, or can we, climb back by the closing bell? Something that's worrying a lot of analysts that I'm talking to is we're also seeing people now pull their money out of the bond market, right? And traditionally, when you get rid of stocks and other U.S. investments, you move to the safety of the bond market. The fact that people are now moving away from even that shows that some investors around the world feel it's better to have cash right now. Sort of cash is king in the market. Do also want to point out Apple, that stock is down about 25% in just the past 4 days. President Trump coming out and saying he wants the iPhone made in the U.S. Most analysts say they can't ever see that happening. And if it were to happen, it would take years and probably push the price of an iPhone to about $3,500, Diane.
And Britt, on that note, the U.S. imported $438 billion worth of Chinese goods just last year alone. What happens to this trade relationship now?
Right. Well, we know that Trump's hefty tariffs on China, they're very likely to drive up the price of daily goods for Americans, from smartphones to electronics. But we know, and we heard from President Xi, and he's spoken for the first time since this latest escalation. He said it's important to look to the neighbors. They want to diversify. They want to make their economy more robust so that they can weather this storm. We've also been speaking to some U.S. manufacturers who have their operations in China. They've also been looking to other markets, but they've described it as a moving target, Diane. They said there's no real safe place in this kind of climate right now, and that's a huge concern. So it's causing a lot of alarm among people who do business in China.
So again, this is what happens. This is what happens, folks. Oh, wow, that's a terrible picture. We'll fix that camera in a minute. But the thing about it is, guys, it's the whole level of this is what happens when Trump thinks that he has a wonderful idea, but in turn, he has a crappy idea. And because he has said crappy idea, well, everybody now has to suffer. Meaning that, again, it's amazing that conservatives have figured out, oh, crap, that basically means us. That basically means our voting base. That means everybody that voted for us, everybody that, again, was all about MAGA, are now going to be ticked off. Why? You're going to be paying more. Simple and put, you will be paying more. And again, China, because they pretty much own the market, are pretty much saying, oh, so you want to go ahead and do this. Cool. We'll Oh, I think we did lose everything that we did. So apologies for that as I try to get this thing fixed. But no, the idea of it all is just that China really does hold the ball in everything. And that's the thing that nobody, well, I won't say nobody. That's the thing that they, and what they don't want to say is, it's like, well, China has sat there and said, you can try this if you want to. And of course, because again, Trump thinks that he knows everything, he's going to sit there and say, oh, well, no one can negotiate like I can. Sir, you're not going to win this battle. I said, let me tell you something. You're not going to win this. The fact that, that folks think that, how can I put this ever so kindly? The fact that he thinks that he can negotiate with China and all these other countries, all of them, oh, well, they're all calling because of what's happening. And I'm going to tell you what's happening, guys, that we are going to win. Dude, we're no longer going to get screwed. I say this with all the love in the world. Not really. I just say this with all the pettiness in the world. When was the last time F-47 had an idea that was successful outside of The Apprentice? And that really wasn't his idea. Because now he wants to play Tariff, but it's more like peekaboo Tariff. And what I mean by that, guys, I mean the simple fact of the matter is that Trump, again, turned around and said, we're going to hold off on that. Because he paused most of his new tariffs for 90 days, but except China, as a way of being petty. Not only did he pause his tariffs except for China, he now increased it to 125%. China, because again, they retaliated, knocking their tariffs to 184. Now, what does all this mean? All this means, guys, is, well, for lack of better words, you're paying more. I would say this: for any devices that you want to get, now is a good time. For any televisions, iPhones, things of that nature. If you're trying, I'm saying from anything from electrical to driving, might be the best time right now to go ahead and get it. Because had F-47 has his way, if he does so choose, try to push stuff forward, it's going to put a lot of things out of the hands of consumers because it's going to be too doggone expensive. It is. But again, I digress because right now, as far as tariffs go, only China is the only one that's going to be feeling the wrath while everybody else gets a 90-day window. Again, I would not be surprised if F-47 changes his mind. That being said, look over to Pam Bondi, who turned around and, again, Pam Bondi, an attorney general that's pretty much an F-47 lapdog, wants to put a judge on blast because basically the judge ruled against F-47. That's it. F-47 got a ruling that he did not like from a federal judge that blocked his executive order targeting the gender and Brock law, which basically means what Trump has basically been doing is telling folks that, hey, he can actually that judge, again, the Brock and General law firm, the Brock and General law firm, which telling government agencies to stop enforcing the order despite the overstepping of judicial powers. Of course, that is from Pam Bondi and from her given marching orders from F-47. Keep in mind, the judge himself was pretty much in his right as far as the ruling goes. And because F-47 didn't like it, he decides to send out his attorney general, who does nothing more than be a mouthpiece and wants to put the judge on blast. This is nothing more than Trump's playbook of, if I don't get my way, I will put you on blast. I will say you're stupid. I will say you're a liberal. I will say you're for the Democrats. I will say you're a plant. I will say everything humanly possible in order to make sure that my point gets across and yours doesn't. That's so the crazy part about this, guys, is just that now when you look at things, this is the new regime. Really and truly, this is the new regime when it comes to things they don't get. And that's just part of it. Because, of course, Bondi can't do anything. That's a judge's ruling. She can't sit there and overstep the judge as much as F-47 would like her to do, but he simply does not have that ability. So, of course, she does what he does. She does what he wants her to do, which is to basically go out there and say, attack this man, because he's basically saying he's basically not doing what I want him to do. In the same sense of the federal judge that ruled in place of the Associated Press. Keep in mind, guys, F-47 and his group try to keep the Associated Press out of the media scrum whenever the president has a speaking edition. They try to eliminate. Of course, the judge ruled and said, you can't do that due to the freedom of the press. The press, the Associated Press, does have the right to interview and question the president as part of their amendment. And if F-47 doesn't like the fact that everybody doesn't write great things about him, he, as a president, cannot sit there and determine who can be in front of his podium, who cannot be. And again, Pam Bondi and F-47 didn't like that. They don't like the fact of the matter that when it comes down to it, they just don't enjoy the fact that when it comes down to it, you simply are not the tyrant you believe yourself to be. You cannot sit there and say, oh, I should be able to do this. I should be able to do that. No, it doesn't work that way. And because it doesn't work that way, you can't effing complain. But again, he will find his way to complain, and I'm not surprised about that. But again, I do like the fact that even though the next part that concerns me, that we do have judges out there that are doing exactly what we need them to do to ensure that F-47 is held to a standard, no matter who its attorney general is. The problem is the Supreme Court. And why do I say the Supreme Court? Is because it goes back to this whole thing of the dangers of a conservative-leaning Supreme Court and the fact that F-47 has a fast food window to them.
The Supreme Court has paused a lower court order requiring the Trump administration to return a wrongly deported Maryland man by midnight tonight. The government admits they shouldn't have sent the man to a notorious prison in El Salvador. And moments ago, it handed down that 5-4 decision allowing Trump to resume Alien Enemies Act deportations. Our Devin Dwyer covers the court for us. So, Devin, just break this down, what it all means.
Some significant news from the court tonight, Lindsay, in a 5-4 decision, as you said, allowing the president to resume deportations of alleged Venezuelan gang members under the Alien Enemies Act. That's that wartime act from 1798 that was last used during World War II to inter Japanese Americans. Remember, this was the law that the president used to send 2 plane loads of alleged gang members to El Salvador a couple weeks ago. Many of those members on those planes, Lindsay, received no due process. They didn't have a chance to challenge their detention, much less their removal. Many of them said they weren't even gang members. Most of them did not have criminal records. They challenged in federal district court in Washington the legality of this. Of course, Judge Boasberg, the district judge who's overseeing that case, has been a target of President Trump and other allies, putting that restraining order on those flights, halting them temporarily. And a short time ago, Lindsay, the Supreme Court now overruling Judge Boasberg says basically that those challengers brought their challenge in the wrong courthouse. This was a decision based largely on jurisdiction rather than substance. It was 5-4. The 4 dissenting justices were the 3 liberal justices and conservative Justice Amy Coney Barrett. But what this means in practice, Lindsay, is that the Trump administration can now use this wartime act to expedite removals of Venezuelans. That said, the Supreme Court, interestingly, did plant a flag for due process. While the court sided with President Trump, they made clear that anyone detained and put on an airplane to El Salvador has to first be given notice, and second, has to be given a reasonable amount of time. That's the court's words, to challenge their removal to another country before they can be sent south. So that is sort of a bit of a hedge on Trump's power here. But make no mistake, this is a significant win for the president, and one that is being lamented tonight by the conservative justices. Justice Sotomayor, in a dissent, said that the government's conduct in this case, sending those airplanes south with those migrants a couple weeks ago with no due process, she calls it an extraordinary threat to the rule of law. And she says the Supreme Court tonight has violated the best traditions of this country. And that is why the court so narrowly divided in the dissent in this case, Lindsay.
Devin, before we let you go, let's talk about Kilmar Abrego Garcia.
So I'll leave it there, guys, because again, this is what I talk about with the dangers of a conservative-leaning Supreme Court. And the fact of the matter is that F-47 has a fast food window to it. And that's the thing. That's the thing that I wish could change, honestly, overnight. I wish it could change overnight just because of the fact of the matter, guys, it's way too easy. When F-47 doesn't get his way, what does he do? Oh, we're going to basically take it to court. And if the court doesn't agree, oh, we're going to take it to Supreme Court. And it never ceases to amaze me how he's able, out of nowhere, to turn around and just fast forward. Because keep in mind, the Supreme Court didn't always used to be so accessible. You had to go through multiple courts before it actually was heard. It had to be decided if it was going to be listed. The Supreme Court had to decide whether or not it was going to be heard, and then maybe they take on the case. Not with F-47. F-47 has a freaking drive-through to the highest court in the land, and that court has multiple times ruled in his favor, especially now that he's still trying to get rid of immigrants. No, I didn't say illegal immigrants. I said he's trying to get rid of immigrants of the brown variety, because he's certainly not getting rid of any Russians. Just saying. But it amazes me so how this man can just go through all of this, and yet everybody's saying how. It's easy. You have conservatives in the Supreme Court that outnumber the liberals and progressives. Although I did not see Amy Coney Barrett being one of the dissenting judges in a 5-4 case. I really did not, which tells me there's a first for everything. But that's not the only reason why we should be worried about Trump's attack on immigrants, because now the Department of Homeland Security wants to check, and I cannot believe I'm actually saying this story, it wants to check the potential visa applicants' social media for anti-Semitism. You can't make this stuff up.
The Department of Homeland Security says it'll start screening visa applicants' social media contact for anti-Semitic activity. The State Department also issued similar guidance last month to consulates around the world, calling for a social media review for student visa applicants. Let's bring in ABC News Justice reporter Luke Barr for more. Luke, what are you hearing about this screening process?
Well, Diane, the Department of Homeland Security is taking a closer look at those applying for legal permanent resident status in the United States. They have directed U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services to act immediately in reviewing these social media contents. And they say that it could be a negative factor when applying for those visas. Let me just read you a little bit of what USCIS had said this morning when announcing this. They say that they will consider social media content that indicates visa applicants, quote, endorsing, espousing, promoting, or supporting anti-Semitic terrorism, anti-Semitic terrorist organizations, or other anti-Semitic activity as a negative factor in any USCIS discretionary analysis. And of course, that directive this morning comes as the State Department has already told visa applicants, student visa applicants, that they'll be looking closely at their rhetoric on social media to see if there's any, quote, hostile, indicators for the United States. They say Secretary of State Marco Rubio said last month that they've already revoked 300 existing visas that have expressed, quote unquote, hostile attitudes. So this just expands upon the administration's visa application policy.
Justice reporter Luke Barr.
So what's crazy is if the Department of Homeland Security wanted to look this hard at visa applicants to scan them for anti-Semitism, or I'm guessing things that are non-American, because trust me, there are probably going to be a few of them. That also being said, that if the Department of Homeland Security is looking this hard at visa applicants, imagine what you could do with an actual working immigration system. Because that's all it is. You basically want to sit there and weed out. It's not anti-Semitism. It's not what it is. I'm going to tell you what it is. It is literally and figuratively, are you for Trump or are you not? Because I guarantee if any of those applicants had an F-47 or F-MAGA or MAGA is a cult, which it is, they'll be immediately disqualified. Because you're not going with the state propaganda. You're not going with the Kool-Aid. You're actually going against it, and we can't have it. That's all that it is. This is just a screening or an excuse for them to go on their social media, and again, to sit there and say if you're with us or not. So again, I'm not surprised by this. It's amazing how F-47 talked about how everything is weaponized, and yet you're doing the exact thing that you said that was happening to you. But again, they just wanted this. I honestly wish F-47 and his administration was honest. We're nationalists. We don't like people that don't look like us. We highly detest people of darker skin. At the same time, if you're Russian, you're okay. Because, Putin has basically got Trump by the balls. Just saying. But move right along, guys, is another part where anti-vaxxers annoy me, but unfortunately we have one as Secretary of Health. What I mean by that is his health secretary, the guy who literally had brain leeches, who thought it was okay to drop an animal in Central Park, the guy who thought it was okay to take a peaceful whale home attached to his hood, frankly, a guy that used a throat lozenge and possibly throat surgery, RFK, as they said, has pointed out because of the measles outbreak, which again is happening because parents don't vaccinate their freaking kids. And yes, anti-vaxxers, you annoy me. I will gladly say it to your face. That being said, current anti-vaxxer and also Secretary of Health, Kennedy, has turned around and sat there and said, well, I'm not sure if the treatment for measles is actually currently working because, again, him and vaccines, because he believes that vaccines cause autism, although history has proven it does not, has sat there and said that, hey, there's two medications that could possibly work. The steroid busanine and the antibiotic clarithromycin. I apologize. I do not have a medical profession. If I screwed those two treatments up, again, I apologize. Keep in mind, this is just him saying it, which again, they love to sit there and say, although experts say there are no specific treatments to help people recover fast from measles, Kennedy went on X and said that the medications have been instrumental in treating around 300 children in Texas, and told Fox News that doctors prescribing them had seen very good results. This is the Secretary of Health talking about a steroid and a antibiotic use that has not been cleared. That has not been cleared by doctors, although he is still going around touting that it has. Sound familiar about this guy? Which led me to this other point, that when it comes down, guys, to how things are done, really and truly, it scares me that anti-vaxxers, especially one that's not health secretary, will also be the same ones that'll be in doctors' offices like this. Keep in mind, it's a television show, but there's some reality to it.
From his sister. Hi, I'm Dr. Robbie. Georgia is fine. She's in our staff room. She's the one who actually called 911 and probably saved her brother's life. Georgia was sick, but she got better on her own quickly.
Yeah, many people get better on their own, like Georgia. However, as many as 1 in 20 kids that get measles get pneumonia, like your son.
Are your children vaccinated against measles?
No.
The MMR vaccine is perfectly safe. Measles is not.
We're concerned about inflammation and possible damage to Flynn's brain and spinal cord.
The measles got to his brain?
Well, his head CT was normal, but the only way to find out if he's okay is to perform a lumbar puncture.
A spinal tap?
I've read about kids who've been paralyzed from a spinal tap.
There is zero risk of paralysis.
What about bleeding or infection?
It's a perfectly safe procedure. We do it every day.
We need spinal fluid to see if Flynn has acute disseminated encephalomyelitis.
And if he does?
We treat with high-dose steroids to decrease the risk of blindness, deafness, intellectual disability, even death.
He could die from this?
The death rate from ATEM is high, 1 in 5.
Do the spinal tap.
No! Can't you just give him steroids without the spinal tap?
If there's no ATEM, the steroids could suppress his immune system, making it harder to fight off the pneumonia.
But it says here
Can you put your damn phone away? Your son is critically ill. The longer that we wait, the higher the risk of permanent brain damage. What is not clear here?
Hillary, he has a tube down his throat.
They're
Can't
not
breathe on his
poking holes in my son's spine.
Wow.
Let's just wait and see if he gets better.
Dr. Kane, could you please take Flynn's parents to see their daughter?
No problem.
They are going to see their daughter.
Fucking Dr. Google bullshit. They want medical treatment, but they don't want medical advice. What the actual fuck are we doing?
Yeah, I know, and we'll keep trying. Hey, you okay?
Yes.
Now, I admit off that bat, I forgot it's Max. So if we try to show anything, it blacks out. I apologize if you stuck with us this far, but the audio you can hear. Now, of course, those are usually anti-vaccine parents that drive me effing nuts. That, you know, they want medical treatment, but don't want medical advice. And yet RFK is out here spouting bullshit that could wind up getting kids killed. Again, this is the F-47 administration, and at the same time, it's effing nuts. At the same time, speaking of effing nuts, never sober, always drunk, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth has said that, you know what? Maybe the Pentagon needs to cut ties with Scouting America, because he's saying that the Boy Scouts is too woke. Although at this time, there is no decision that has been made to sever the Pentagon from Boy Scouts of America. Are you freaking kidding? Is it because the Boy Scouts have accepted girls now? Because the Boy Scouts, the Scouting America used to be known as the Boy Scouts of America because, well, only boys were allowed to be scouts. The girls had their Girl Scouts of America, but again, they did incorporate girls into Boy Scouts, calling it Scouting America. And of course, there are those out there, those that need to touch grass and get therapy, are now saying Scouting America is woke because girls cannot be scouts, which, again, I say that's bullshit. Girls can do just as much as almost anything a man can do. At the same time, if a girl wants to be a scout, let them be a scout. What's there to learn from? I mean, you do get the basic skills. You do get basic carpentry skills. And at the same time, if they become an Eagle Scout, so what? If you never made it to an Eagle Scout, maybe you need to look at yourself and maybe get some freaking therapy. But that's what he says. He said Hegseth, again, went to his favorite spot on Fox News because that's where every conservative goes, their safe space / bubble, and sat there and said that the organization of Scouting America has lost what they stand for. I'm sorry. Let's point this out. What exactly did the Boy Scouts stand for? They stood for the fact of the matter is just that they were all for uplifting children. Uplifting children is a lot better than mending men. Again, nothing wrong with that. So women wanted to be involved as well. A welcome thing. But yet, Pete Hegseth, a guy who says he wants to bring a warrior mentality, but yet he can't stay sober for 5 minutes, a man that has literally leaked protocols on a group chat, a man that has sat there and said, a man who was basically a National Guard staffing buddy, and again, no offense to the National Guard, but a guy who comes off as a hard ass that has never really seen war is not the guy that you want for Secretary of Defense, much less one that cannot stay sober and seems to actually go against Scouting America versus actually going against all the spending that's going on in the Pentagon and is definitely beyond unqualified for it. But hey, Keep drinking that drink, sir, because apparently you are wanted. That also being said, guys, the last thing I'll talk about before we get to our feel-good segment is that I just want to remind everybody, Trump has still got debt on his head. What I mean by that is the fraud debt from where he basically committed mortgage fraud and was found guilty of it. Remember that price tag of $400 million that if he didn't pay, that his properties would be seized, and yet somehow, some way, he still managed to dodge it? Well, that debt is still collecting interest, almost to the tune of $500 million. Now, keep in mind, of course, because of Trump and his lawyering, that they managed to get the case pushed back, to manage to get the sentencing pushed back until he ran for president. And then because he got a bunch of idiots to vote for him as president, basically insulated him from his previous cases, which, by the way, have either went hibernation or dismissed. I'm sorry, F-47, you can't dismiss this one because the simple fact of the matter is he did commit mortgage fraud. He is a felon. He is a sexual predator. And you will not dock the fact that one day you are going to have to wind up paying this. I look forward to the fact that when they finally seize Trump Tower, because I know there is one AG that is currently waiting in the wings that will love nothing more to be able to take your precious Trump Tower and sell it off as they should. But hey, the clock's ticking and the debt keeps climbing, which I wonder what's going to happen first. His fraud debt's going to reach $1 trillion, or he's going to put this country in $1 trillion in debt. 1, 2 is bound to happen. But that being said, guys, we are going to move on to our feel-good segment. Usually on How the Frack We Got Here, we usually cover a lot of things that are doom and gloom. Sometimes make you fake humanity, but hey, it's Wednesday, it's hump day. We want to leave you guys out some good vibes, and hopefully this next story will do just that, about a young man that has going to college and has a lot of scholarships to show the hard work this man's put in. But I'm not going to tell a story. He is.
I'm going to go to college and I'm going to, do something great. I went through and selected the schools that I wanted to apply to for several reasons, depending on their programs for my major and things that I felt like would be good for me. I made time and found time to sit down and apply for these schools. And sometimes the numbers would just get away from me. I would just apply because I knew I liked the school for some reason. It seems like I just kept applying, but I honestly kept forgetting what number I was on, how many I had done. My first one came from the University of Alabama. That first one, I was so excited because I honestly did not know if I would get in. I didn't know if I would get into any of these schools. So every one that I got, I felt like it was a great accomplishment in life. So I was so happy when I would get any college acceptance. I'm still weighing my options, what's best for me. My mother, she actually didn't get to go to college. She raised me by herself. So she always instilled in me to get the things that you want, and you can do anything because you just have to work hard for it. But she's just always willing to help me and be by my side and give me inspiration and guidance when I need it the most. I've been interested in medicine since I was in the 6th grade. It's just something that has driven me for the longest time. I've always known that I wanted to be some sort of doctor. I plan to major in pre-med biology with a minor in education, and then I plan to go to medical school to become an anesthesiologist. My biggest goal in life is to motivate people and help others because you never know what somebody is going through, and you can always help somebody with just a word of inspiration, a smile, or even a hug.
Now that right there is a kid that will inspire people. Rumble, young man, rumble. Because of course that man, that teen, I should say, Mr. Presley, literally 60 colleges accepted him, over $1 million in scholarships. If I'm his parent, I'm like, thank you, Jesus, because college tuition it's a lot. But congratulations, Mr. Presley, and the fact that I hope you do become a doctor because the world could use more of that. That being said, guys, that's going to do it for this podcast. Thank you all for watching, for liking, for letting people know this is live. I certainly appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. Some shameless plugs before we do get out of here. Shout out to Always Press Record TV. Why? Because you can find shows like How the Frack We Got Here on their network, available on the Roku channel or the Amazon Fire TV app. Definitely check them out at APR TV or alwayspressrecord.com. Also, Blurred Station, a place to where our content, our viewership, most importantly, our dollars can be seen at. Simply put, guys, go to blurredstation.com. If you want to join, hit the join now button. Select the Blurred's Eye View Affinity membership. Select any member there, guys. It is $10.99 a month to stream Blurred Station, and Blurred Station can be streamed on all smart devices. So definitely check them out. Again, a table that's better than Tubi because, again, Tubi is owned by Fox, and F the guy who owns Fox. Also, runforoffice.org. How many times we keep saying this? The people that, for Moms for Liberty, the crazy heads, how they get in office? Well, this is how they did it. They simply put, they ran, they got elected, and of course are now trying to ruin our country. Now, you can do quite the opposite. If you feel the call to public service, please go to runforoffice.org, type in your address. Whether you want to serve locally or nationally, it'll actually help you in the process of getting on the ballot, what you can run for, and things of that nature to hopefully where you can run, get elected, and you can make a difference. Because trust me, we need everybody hands on deck. It's going to be a long-ass 4 years. But definitely check out runforoffice.org if you feel so inclined, and hopefully we'll be able to see you across the podium accepting a nomination. At least that's my hope. As for myself, guys, please check us out, not at the Get Bit Podcast, because that needs to be changed. I apologize. Me being lazy as usual, but outside of the Get Bit Podcast, which we do hope you enjoy, actually you can check us out at How the Frack We Got Here. How the Frack We Got Here, all together, guys. You can find it on Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. Like, share, and follow as we grow the page. Of course, myself at Black_Spartan615. You can like and follow me there. Again, guys, none of this can be done without you. Yes, it is going to be a long 4 years, but here's my piece of advice I always love to give. Please don't doom scroll. Doom scrolling has never helped anybody except increase your blood pressure. And right now, you definitely want to do that. Get out, do something nice, take your mind off a few things, go do something fun. Check on your people, a call or a text. You don't know if you don't know how close you are to saving a life by doing just that. At the same time, do something that makes you happy. And if you have the ability to make somebody else happy for a moment or time, do so. The world could use more of that. At the same time, guys, we will continue to cover this and bring the stories that influence. Hopefully, we'll be able to encourage you to actually go out there and make a difference because we need more difference makers out there. Now, the last thing is about the Frack We Got Here. It's all about staying informed. We are not trying to reinvent the wheel, folks. We're simply giving you all the information allow you to make up your own mind. But we do provide a perspective that goes along with it. We do better as society once we're informed. We're progressive. We move forward. We try to right our wrongs by making changes now that we should have done back then. Again, like electing our first Black woman to the Supreme Court, electing our first Black woman to the Federal Board of Governors, electing, hopefully one day, our Black woman to be our first Madam President. All great things. We don't learn from history. We are doomed to repeat it. That's why we keep asking ourselves, why does everything go up at our paycheck? Why are we electing different politicians in Congress but still the same old game there? Most importantly, how the Frack We Got Here. Please take care of yourselves and each other, guys. I promise we will all get through this. Enjoy. Don't doom scroll. And for all those that don't like me, get outside and touch some grass. Peace.